Hello, and welcome to Around the Political World with John Rothman. I am your host, John Rothman. If you're a fan of the show, make sure to hit the follow button on the top right of Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening at this very moment. When you hit follow, leave a review or share an episode with a friend. It helps other people discover the show, keeps us going. As I like to point out each and every day, it expands our base. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Do you remember when you were in school and we used that expression when you were trying to choose what to do? Well, today is such a day, to a degree. I want to speak directly to one issue off the top. Yesterday, Donald Trump said that Harvard University, one of the great universities of the world, teaches hate and stupidity. I listened to Donald Trump. I read what he said. And on top of that, he is eliminating research funds from Harvard University. Research funds that, deal with so many different issues that it's amazing. And when you talk about cutting billions of dollars from Harvard University out of a petty political disagreement, which, by the way, has no basis or merit in fact, it's just appalling. Not since Spiro Agnew, Richard Nixon's first vice president, talked about nattering nabobs of negativism, have we seen such an assault on the university. I want to be crystal clear. I don't want there to be any ambiguity in what I'm about to say. What Donald Trump is doing is wrong. One person who happens to be president of the United States is now using vindictiveness, vengeance, and his political agenda to strangle American academia. Oh, it's not just Harvard. Several other university presidents have now come out and said they agree with what Harvard is doing in defying the president of the United States. And let's be clear, it is the president who is issuing these kind of orders. It is the president who is recalling the images of those who opposed academia in the past. We have seen books removed from shelves. We have seen that kind of activity of accusation going back to the McCarthy days, and we are seeing it now. But we don't have an Edward R. Murrow or a forum in which one can really deal with this subject. That leaves us with what Trish said yesterday. It is the courts, and that's what we have to rely on. And many of the justices of the Supreme Court who ultimately will rule on these decisions understand what Ivy League schools mean. And it's not just Ivy League. It's every school. It's schools that are now being told, teach the way I want or have your funds revoked. This is unconscionable. It is what we would see in a dictatorship. And I hope that this decision by Donald Trump to go after Harvard University, to tell us that Harvard teaches hate and stupidity, is just nonsense. I'm raising this issue with you right now as one of the key issues facing America. If Donald Trump gets away with this, the very essence of American democracy will be in jeopardy. I now want to talk about Social Security and Donald Trump's attack on the Social Security system. There is no doubt that in order for the Social Security system to really work, you have to have employees at Social Security who are really functioning. Donald Trump is essentially saying he wants to cut the people who work at Social Security. Many are taking early retirement. Who will replace them? Let me tell you, I had an uncle who worked for Social Security for many years, and he told me story after story of how his personal intervention helped make the Social Security system better. This is no joking matter. Social Security affects millions and millions of Americans. There is a clear and present danger, and Donald Trump needs to be stopped. When he says that he has no intention of listening to the courts, that too is a defiance of the Constitution. And if I were a member of the Supreme Court, even a conservative member of the Supreme Court, I would look at Donald Trump and say, what in the world are you doing? But it goes further. We have a Secretary of Health and Human Services who has now promised, he has promised that he will, within a few months, solve the problem of autism, why there is an epidemic, what is the cause. This defies every scientific thought about the subject of autism. We know that Donald Trump is using all of this as a political club to go after his political opponents. And more than that, he has allowed Robert Francis Kennedy Jr. to impose wacko science on our country. When I said eeny, meeny, miny, mo, I could go down the list. And let me assure you, on the question of immigration, when the Supreme Court issues an order that is clear and precise, although the Trump people say, no, it was ambiguous, I understand what it means when they say bring somebody back. And then the Trump people, again, in defiance of all law, says that they may, in fact, deport people who are citizens of the United States. Citizens of the United States. Does that mean you? Does that mean me? Does that mean that we have a rogue, lawless president? And the answer is yes. Now, let me get to the nub. The nub is that in order for this president to be restrained, there are only two vehicles. One is the election, which will take place in November of 2026, and that election will be critical. And the other, the courts. Will the courts stand up? And I speak now about the Supreme Court of the United States. If, in fact, the Supreme Court of the United States is unwilling to take a stand, then our freedom, democracy, will really be in jeopardy. I don't want to exaggerate, nor do I want to add fuel to an already blazing fire of opposition to Donald Trump. But I want to point these things out because when the President of the United States feels free to attack academic freedom, to go after Social Security, to say publicly that he will not listen to the court, then, my friends, we do have a constitutional crisis. I have been told we are not yet in such a crisis, and I would respond with all the vigor I can muster that indeed we are. And therefore, the American people must be alert to this. Donald Trump and his administration cannot be allowed to get away with this. And I say this with all of the power that I can muster. These are days, as they said of old, which try men's souls. Believe me, these are days which try our souls, our patience, and may I say, our very essence. And so, I know this is a difficult thing to hear, and like eeny, meeny, miny, mo in the schoolyard, you take your choice. There are so many issues to discuss, so many issues to respond to. But we will do it. We will do it right here. And we invite your comments because that's what free speech is all about. Thinking, responding on a college campus or on a radio program or on a podcast. That is our right as an American. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Around the Political World with John Rothman. I am John Rothman. Make sure to follow along and let me know your thoughts on the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and sharing an episode with a friend or colleague so we can continue to grow and expand, which is, of course, our goal. You can interact with me on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and many of you email me, and I'm delighted when I receive those emails. And, of course, I want to say a special thank you to the wonderful producer of this podcast, Gogo Zoger. Without Gogo, well, where would I be? Gogo, thanks so much. And to all of you, I will be back tomorrow, and we will continue right here on Around the Political World with John Rothman. See you then.